Okay, good. All right. Sorry about that, guys. So yeah, what I was saying is that I live very close to Saqsaywaman and Temple of the Moon, and these were featured on one of Graham Hancock's episodes of Ancient Apocalypse. And I caught him lying in the space of about 10 minutes or less 3 times in order to support his theories. And there's a lot of reasons why that bothers me. One of them is that the insinuation that the Incas couldn't possibly have done this is kind of condescending and insulting to these people. And if you watched my video that I just premiered, where we walked around Saqsaywaman with a Quechua shaman, he gave a history that is kind of consistent with Graham Hancock's in the sense of it being much older than historians say. But it was still the Incas, according to him. And I have to say that I also kind of find this shaman's assertion that it's 50,000 years old a bit iffy. There are lots of reasons, and the main one being that there are a lot of earthquakes here, and for all of these rocks to still be in the correct positions 50,000 years through all the earthquakes, and it doesn't seem that plausible. Nevertheless, other reasons why I hate what Graham Hancock does is that, for one thing, the real history of the world is just as interesting as the bullshit that he's promoting. His nonsense really started with Fingerprints of the Gods, where he claimed that there was a global, massive advanced civilization that spanned the entire Earth. There's no way that that's true, because there would be evidence that would be discovered by all sorts of different groups, and there hasn't been. They've done deep radar searches of Antarctica. There's nothing to suggest that there was ever a civilization there. And for those of us that are out-of-the-box thinkers, that are promoting questioning mainstream narratives and whatnot, people like Terence Horward, Billy Carson, Graham Hancock, that are exploiting, first of all, in a predatory way, really, the paranoia that people have developed, knowing that the matrix, the machine, cannot be trusted and that it lies. So, oh my God, what the hell is that? I hope it doesn't bite. Yikes, some scary ass bug flying around. Ooh, yeah, that doesn't look good. Sorry, that's really distracting me. I don't know what to do about it. Looks like a Dobson fly or something. Get away. These people do a tremendous amount of damage to the credibility of the entire movement, and there has never been a time where it was more important to question things, And it is true that Saqsaywaman, the rocks are massive monolithic stones. Some of them are lifted way high up in the air, and the way that they are fitted together, right? It's like you could barely fit a credit card into between some of these rocks. It truly is extraordinary, and we don't know how they did it. I may pull up a little while later in the stream. I have lots of footage on my computer where it actually looks like fingers were dragged through the stone, which is limestone, and it's super rock hard. Also, there's no seashells, fossils, or calcite veins in the huaca stones, which is the word that we use to describe these weird flattened, they're not all flattened. It's really hard to explain, and it's true. It doesn't make any sense. They're all over the Sacred Valley, and it would be a tremendous amount of work, and they serve no functional purpose that you can figure out. So there are truly mysteries. And I would love to find out what the true answers are. But here's the thing about Graham Hancock. First of all, the suggestion that a guy with a sociology degree has managed to uncover things that have been missed by... There are 7,998 active archaeologists in the United States alone right now. So all over the world, from different nations, they've all missed all this stuff that he has somehow discovered. It reminds me of when Terence Horward said that he found the Grand Unified Theory at the age of 7. If he had truly done that, he would have been a famous child genius. At 7 years old, he would still have the mathematical capabilities, and he says he doesn't believe in gravity, but in order to find the Grand Unified Theory, gravity is one of the constituent elements of that you are trying to unify. So, it's that kind of thing where Terence Howard is like, I've figured out what Einstein failed to figure out, you name it, all these people throughout history. Completely ridiculous. And I already mentioned that it's insulting to the Incas, it's condescending to say these savages couldn't have figured it out. But let's get to the lies, the patent, bold-faced, obvious lies that no one should believe and everyone should just be laughing when he says this stuff. One of those things is that in order to substantiate his conjecture that the Incas couldn't possibly have done this, he tells a story of how the Incas tried to move a rock that was so large that it took 20,000 people to move the rock. And then it fell and crushed 3,000 of them. There's no way 20,000 people are getting a hold of a rock. Even if you had some kind of extension to pull it with, like boards long enough to, all the way around this thing. Let's say we have rows of 2,000 people in every, what is he even talking about? It's so patently, obviously stupid that it's mind-blowing that it even came out of his mouth. And then he says that it fell and crushed 3,000 people. Where's this rock? They would have been bringing the rocks in on the Inca Trail, which is a 1,000-mile-long road that still exists. And the Temple of the Moon, Ollantaytambe, the Temple of the Sun, all these ruins and structures are all found along this Incan road. Where's the rock? Where's the rock that is so big that it took 20,000 people to carry it and killed 3,000 when it fell over? First of all, it's not going to fall over. That's just stupid. They would be carrying it, unless they were completely mentally disabled, long ways. Anyways, lay it down. They're not going to be trying to balance this massive monolithic stone. And here's the thing, you guys. Do you think Graham Hancock believed what he was saying? That when they told him this story, if he really even got it from Quechua people, which is what he claimed, that he didn't go, that's completely stupid. Of course he did. But in order to bolster his theories, he pretended to believe that this was possibly true. And he said, see, that's proof that they couldn't move this stone. Lying through his teeth. Lying through his teeth. And then later, he says the Incas mostly only had stone tools. Not true. The Incas were very advanced metallurgists. They understood hardening techniques, and they definitely had chisels, metal hammers, and other metal tools, maybe even pulleys. So, there's no way that Graham Hancock doesn't know that isn't true. There's no way. Google it. So why do we have this guy that's supposed to be this rogue expert? He doesn't know that the Incas were metallurgists and that they had tools? No, he's lying through his teeth. And then the last thing that I remember from this clip, he goes down into the Temple of the Moon, which is an amazing place. It's a sprawling, I don't know what to call it. It's not really a complex. There's no dwelling places. These rocks just are, they have weird flattened spots that almost look like giant thrones. Some of them have holes in them. There are stargazing pools that have been cut out in circles so that you could look into the pool and see the reflection of the stars for divining purposes, probably. So he goes down into this little rock opening at the Temple of the Moon. And I was just there 2 weeks ago. They use camera angles and lighting to make it appear like it's this giant cavern, I guess, to increase intrigue or something. It's not. It's just a little crack in the rock, and you go down in there, and it's about 3 feet wide, and then you go out the other side. And there is a strange protuberance that the locals say is the heart of Pachamama. And the entire Temple of the Moon is actually shaped like a vagina because it's, the feminine. It's truly extraordinary. But he goes down in there and he puts his hand on this flat waka stone and he looks at it in awe and he says, this must be some kind of technology that we don't understand. It's a rock. It's a rock with a flat top. What technology could this possibly be? What possible thing could a flat rock do? The only thing that I've noticed that seems interesting about this place in terms of potentially offering some kind of purpose for these waka stones and these sites is that I saw a trumpet player standing over against the hill and playing in the direction of one of these mounds of waka stones, and it was loud. It was really, really loud. So they amplify sound. Other than that, there's nothing that is weird about these rocks, you know, and the way it appears at the Temple of the Sun is that they were just flat spots where they could set up effigies and they could put stuff, you know. Some of them may have been like chairs. At the Temple of the, oh wait, another lie. I forgot about this. The Temple of the Sun is about 90 minutes from Saqsaywaman and Temple of the Moon. They're pretty close together. He goes up to one of these rounded monolithic stones and he says, "This is the only place in Peru where these are found." Bullshit, they're all over the place. They're all over the place. Not even, and even if he meant this area of Cusco, that's not true either. The Temple of the Sun has got even larger monolithic stones that have rounded sides, just like the rocks that he's saying only are at Saqsaywaman. So the point is, this man is obviously lying about stuff in order to make his unhinged theories that have absolutely no real evidential basis at all whatsoever seem more plausible. And so, you know, it's I almost sometimes suspect that Billy Carson, especially the Hollywood guy, Terence Horward and Graham Hancock, actually work for the machine. Because by putting out all of these ridiculous ideas, 1 times 1 equals 2, for example. I mean, my son can, you know, he knows multiplication better than Terence Horward, and people are thinking this guy's a genius, right? But I sometimes suspect that they're actually a propaganda outlet, because they make all of us that are outside of the mainstream narratives look like a bunch of raving idiot lunatics with no capacity for critical thinking and, you know, just completely intellectually lazy. And that's terrible, because they are basically claiming that they are undoing the lies of the machine. And somebody told me, you know, Graham Hancock may not be right about things, but at least he's getting people to open their minds. Dumping a bunch of bullshit into people's heads is not opening their minds. It's not. It just isn't. And it discourages people from questioning the mainstream reality and actually discovering the mysteries that liberate mankind from their mental and social servitude. You know, these guys are not just unethical. They're not just making money through pulp fiction that they're, you know, propping up as actual reality. You know, and to me, that's one of the worst things you could possibly be doing at this juncture in human history. So, you know, this may not be a super long stream because there's only so much that I can say about this. And if anybody has any questions or comments or anything to add, please feel free. I have a bit of time tonight to chew through things, think this through with me. I am still considering bringing up some of my video from Temple of the Sun and whatnot. It's just that it's not really edited and it's probably very shaky. So maybe it'd be better to just wait till the videos come out. But it's an absolute certainty that Graham Hancock is lying about. And this is only 10-minute segment of one episode. Can you imagine how much bullshit there must be spread throughout the rest of it? You know, the absolute dearth of evidence for anything he suggests is enough really to hang the guy. You know, but I honestly was shocked to hear him, you know, using such obvious bullshit, making such easily disprovable statements in that story about the people, 20,000 people carrying a rock that crushed 3,000 people. Yet there's no rock with bone fragments all around it in the Incan Trail anywhere. You know, I mean, this is not even it's not even good lies. It's just so transparent. And another thing, I guess, about the Inca, this is based on anecdotal evidence, I guess, but I took a trip to Temple of the Sun a little while back, and we met a shaman who introduced me to chumpi stones, which are supposedly meteorites. And it is true that magnets stick to them. They look like meteorites. I've compared them to many meteorites online. I'm not a meteorite expert, so I guess I can't be 100% sure. Of course, mainstream science says they're just lodestones. But then I would ask, like, how did the Quechua know what meteorites are and that they look like that and come from outer space? Because this has been documented, this claim, for a long time. So, again, here's an example of a mystery that pertains to this stuff that actually has some kind of substantial basis. And so I ran into this shaman. And I have long been obsessed with light and the electromagnetic field and the relationship to consciousness. And so the Temple of the Sun was a holy place. And when I realized that all these vendors had these meteorites for sale, I thought, I bet there's some connection between the fact that this was chosen as a holy place and these meteorites. And then the shaman starts explaining to us that these round balls were not only used, they were metal. They're metal, and they're worked, they're shaped, they're tools, and they were one of the things they used to smooth the rock. And you can find originals around, by the way. So that's the extent of Graham Hancock's bullshit. The tools that were used to shape the rock are still for sale in the markets. It's illegal to buy them, but you can find them. And they're big round ones. The iron meteorite is the male, I think, and the other one is the female. So it's like a tan one and a black one. And they were used, according to the shaman, to concentrate the energy of Inti. Well, how would you concentrate the energy of the sun? With a magnetic rock, a meteor, and I looked this up and was able to confirm that meteorites do manipulate electromagnetic fields, concentrate them, sometimes even generate their own. And so we have this real and true actual mystery. Wouldn't that be just so much more fun than just lying about shit? I mean, but anyways, concentrate the energy of Inti, the sun, by concentrating the electromagnetic field. So I think the Incas knew about this relationship, and yet they're too primitive to work stone, according to Graham Hancock. I mean, he's demeaning these ancient cultures that don't deserve that. If there is such thing as spirits, I would be willing to bet that one of these days he's going to go to one of these ruin sites and something's going to fall on his head and pop him like a grape. It really is messed up. Okay, can you talk about Kundalini? Ancient alien theorist says yes. Billy Carson is not too bad. Bullshit. Billy Carson is completely full of shit. In fact, I'm about to put out a debunk video. I've been working on it forever. I thought about playing some of it during this live stream, actually. But he is completely full of shit as well. At one point, Joe Rogan asked him about the gold. What were they doing with the gold? And he says, I don't know why all these ancient cultures were obsessed with gold. Why not, Billy? Everyone knows. Anyone that cares to find out easily can find out. It was considered the sweat of Inti. It was considered a accretion of the sun god, the stars. And it turns out that most of the heavy elements in the universe, gold and platinum, come from when superneutron stars collide. They're only about 115 yards across. A spoonful weighs as much as Kilimanjaro. And when they collide, this gold and platinum is sprayed all over the universe. That's where most of it came from. So these ancients that were too dumb, according to Hancock, to move rocks around and didn't have stone tools, knew that gold comes from stars somehow. I guess because they were so primitive. Right, Mr. Hancock? But the point is that we know why these ancient cultures revered gold. Almost all of them, from the alchemists to the Aztecs, the Incas. The Incas didn't even have a monetary value placed on it. It was just because of the fact that it's crystallized consciousness. In the alchemical tradition, it's crystallized consciousness. Egypt, Syria, Babylonia, similar beliefs about gold. So why is this guy who's supposed to be an expert in these things acting like he doesn't know what they needed gold for? He's full of shit. He's completely full of shit. And then the whole Anunnaki thing, right? He says that because the Anunnaki giants appear in both the Bible and the ancient Babylonian things, that means they're real. No, it doesn't. These were derivative. Christianity is derivative of these older religions in every way, shape, or form. The entire thing. Jesus is even the sun itself. I am the light of this world, walking on water like light reflecting on water. 3 days on the Southern Cross. 3 days when the sun stops moving in the tomb. You know, it's completely stupid. Just because myths from roughly the same area of the world that were created within a few centuries of each other have similar references in them does not mean anything. Nothing at all. And then the idea that they were harvesting gold is completely stupid. Like, we can, and this is also in the video that I'm gonna release soon, we can make gold out of other elements in a laboratory. We do not have the capacity to travel to other star systems. If we can make gold out of mercury in a laboratory, an advanced alien race could too. Also, on your way to Earth, there would be asteroids made of gold. You can land on them. They're almost solid gold, some of them. There's no reason to come here to get gold. It's the 20th heaviest element. So what they're flying back to, you know, the other star system with their ass dragging on the ground, like, it's just stupid. It's completely stupid. You know, and these guys know that. They know that there's no way any of the bullshit they're spewing is real, you know? And so, yes, there are secrets and mysteries and probably things that have been covered up. But speaking of covered up, the way that Graham asserts or implies that there's some kind of conspiracy among archaeologists to occult the past and hide everything. We're talking about tens of thousands of archaeologists from different cultures, different ethnicities, different time periods, right? They have no restrictions on them. No one goes around to every school of archaeology and says, hey, you better not tell anyone if you find evidence of the Anunnaki or the, you know, whatever this ancient civilization, you better, you know what I mean? It's the same reason that, the main reason that flat Earth is such a dumb conspiracy. Too many conspirators. There's no way to silence all the pilots and, you know, the GPS systems all work. And I mean, it's just, you know, too many conspirators. So he, you know, at least implies that there's a conspiracy to cover up the true history of the planet. There is no way that you could get all of the archaeologists and other fields that might stumble upon something to suppress this knowledge. It's just not possible. What dose of Diplopterus cabrerana would I recommend? You know, it's funny. I pretty much always use fresh Chalipanga in the jungle. By the way, if anyone out there wants to see Saqsaywaman and do the tour with the Quechua person and get that version, or you can watch the video, although I didn't include the entire tour because I don't want to spoil it for a guest. But from November 15th to December 15th, we're doing ayahuasca, San Pedro, Yopo, possibly Bufo, and that requires you to avoid the other medicines for a few days before and after. So something to consider. Combo, and then tours of the local ruin sites. And then in May, we're going to Manu, to the jungle. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email. Also, please hit the like button, share, subscribe, and consider becoming a patron. We get nothing because we're demonetized from YouTube, so we appreciate your support. So Diplopterus cabrarena is much, much stronger than chacruna. The standard dose for chacruna is 50 grams, but when I use that much, it's always a bit too weak. Most people say 12 grams of chalipanga. I would say at least 15 if you really want it to have a good, rich tryptamine content. Gold is sun crystallized? Yes. And I would even go so far as to say that it's crystallized consciousness to an extent. In fact, I think that one of the reasons that we're so obsessed with gold is that deep inside, everyone knows these things. And life really is about the pursuit of transcendental experience and higher consciousness, the alchemy of turning the lead of everyday experience into the gold of higher consciousness. And so they're blindly searching for this physical manifestation of this thing, but they've got the wrong angle on it. You know, the Incas and whatnot knew why they revered gold. And the Catholics came and killed them all and took it because they have the instinct, they have that resonance with this substance, but they don't have the knowledge of why. And so the end result is madness rather than illumination. It's a very thin line, a very fine line. And without the knowledge, this obsession is just madness. And then somebody's asking me about Graham Hancock's opinion about, you know, psychedelics and how they can be used for time travel and to attain information through non-ordinary means. I guess something Graham Hancock has talked about. That much I am totally on board with. I have received all kinds of information through non-ordinary means from taking psychedelics, also without them. So, you know, that's not something I take issue with Graham Hancock about. But again, he's not doing the psychedelic movement any service by, you know, putting out all this bad information and making us look stupid on the mainstream stage and associating himself with psychedelics. That's no help. Somebody's asking if I think it's just monetarily motivated. Yeah, I do. I think it's possible that at first he genuinely had some interest in these things. I doubt that he really believed that there was an ancient global civilization that was destroyed in a cataclysm, to the extent that I think he's always been at least partly full of shit. But just like Adam Jones and so many others, I think, you know, back in the day, Adam Jones was actually, I liked him. You know, he would say things like, remember the movie Waking Life? He had like a monologue in that movie where he was saying, voting a purely, what's the word? Symbolic act of choosing between two sides of the same coin of slavery Inc. You know, and now he's like Trump, Trump, Trump. You know, I think once he ran out of legitimate things that he knew that he could say, he just started saying anything. And I think at this point he's been compromised and he's actually part of the propaganda machine, just like Elon Musk and pretty much anyone that has a major platform that you can name. He asked, I missed the meat of the sandwich. What's the lie this time? Basically, there were three major things. One of them is that he used the story of the Inca trying to carry a rock that took 20,000 people to carry, which is just stupid, physically impossible to attach that many people to a rock. And when it fell, it crushed 3,000. If that happened, where's the rock? Where are all the bone fragments? This would have been on the Incan highway. No way it's real. He knew that because I don't think he's stupid enough not to, like, for that to click. Like, this is obviously dumb, but yet he used it to try to justify that the Incas couldn't possibly have moved the stones. He also said they had mostly only stone tools, which is an abject lie. They were adept at metallurgy. They had chisels. They had hammers. He also said that the only monolithic rounded stones of a certain type are at Saqsaywaman, and they're found at all of the other ruin sites that I'm aware of in Peru. So Somebody's asking about mimosa versus the traditional brew. All of these plants have a different entourage effect because they have different alkaloids that are distributed in different ratios. And so, from a shamanic point of view, because Chaliponga and Chacruna, they're not necessarily, well, Chaliponga is a vine. Chacruna is a very stringy kind of, coffee type bush. And so that is more cerebral and light, and the air is the intellect, and so these things have more of an effect in that region, in that part of our being. And because with Mimosa hostilis, the roots are used, it's a more grounded experience. And if you don't remove the tannins when you make it with Mimosa hostilis, you're going to purge way more than you want to. So you just put eggs in it, boil it, and then strain the eggs out, and that will take all the tannins out, or most of them. So, yeah, you guys, I mean, the main bullet point of this presentation is that as people that are part of the most important movement in human history, that of liberating ourselves from the mind manacles of culture, your cult, we have to put our best foot forward, and we have to set a very high bar in terms of critical thinking. And if we're going to present alternatives to entrenched beliefs, we have to make sure that we do it in a way that is grounded in reality. We have a huge obligation to each other not to share Graham Hancock's shit on social media, and to believe Terence Horward when he says 1 times 1 equals 2, and Billy Carson when he pretends that there are mysteries throughout history that are not mysteries at all, that anyone that actually has any kind of inclination to study and research can easily find a lot of the answers to the things that he pretends are mysterious. Yeah, he asked if anything Egyptian related comes up in trips. Of course it does. That's something that I've wondered about for a long, long time, and a lot of other people do too. Why is it that whenever anyone becomes spiritual, all of a sudden Egyptian stuff, is like super relevant to them? I don't have a good answer, except that this is the area where the mystery schools really flourished and bloomed and came into being. So, as far as I can tell, the mystery school techniques of attaining to illumination are the best, and they lead to an actual, demonstrably true type of spirituality. And I think it could be that the power of that integration of that level of knowledge has sort of reverberated through our ancestral memory. And so that's why when people take psychedelics and they have spiritual awakenings, they suddenly become so interested in Egyptian symbolism and Egyptian myths, because that is where mankind really first connected with the ultimate truths of the universe. I do not have advice on growing blue lotus unless you happen to live on the Nile. Are there any differences in the experience between Chacruna and Chaliponga? Yeah, there definitely is. Chacruna tends to be a lot easier. It's less dark. The visions can be much more bright and colorful. Chacruna, I prefer Chaliponga actually, because it just seems like a deeper, weirder kind of experience. But it's very subjective, and it's a matter of personal opinion, probably, which is the best. 1 times 1 equals 2 now. Damn, man, my education was wasted. Yeah, and that's one of the things that is so important about educating ourselves in the realm of mathematics and sciences. If you're going to expand your consciousness, you need to balance that with real world knowledge, because if you don't, then you end up like a hot air balloon and you're just floating off into the clouds, and the real prophets' heads rise above the heaven, but their feet drag below the hells. And that is the true holistic version of illumination. You have to have this full spectrum of knowledge and understanding. Otherwise, you're just another muddle-headed mystic, and that doesn't help anyone. So, it should be an honor and a privilege to live in a time where we have the ability to educate ourselves on anything at any kind of depth according to our own ingenium, whatever our inclinations and proclivities lead us to, And then also we have all the psychedelics and the techniques of meditation and shamanism that, are converging from all points all over the planet. This is truly one of the most miraculous times that we could possibly have existed, Of course, it's wrought with peril, but that's just the nature of the universe. And as opposites increase in equal measure in order to maintain the balance that makes life and the universe creation sustainable, to make it possible, right? So any moment that is pregnant with opportunity is going to be rife with peril. So this is just, the formula. And it's what we've got to work with. If you know the rules to the game, play. Okay, let me check in with the other chat once more. Telonius Terp says maybe he is a bit self-deceived. I don't think so. Because, like I said about the story with the big rock, 20,000 people and 3,000 people, and it falls and crushes them, he knows that's ridiculous. He knows he's lying. When they went into the little hole in the rock at the Temple of the Moon and used video trickery and lighting to make it look huge and dramatic, he knew he was being deceptive. When he said that the Incas he said they mostly only had stone tools. And he said mostly because he knew that he's lying, and that he's at least implying a lie. He knows they had stone or metallurgy and metal chisels and metal hammers, and I'm sure he's been to Temple of the Sun and he knows about the round meteor balls they were using to smooth the stone and stuff. It's impossible not to notice them. So, it's just, he knows he's full of shit at this point, and there was actually a debate between him and an archaeologist, I guess, on Rogan, and he got completely slaughtered. And you know why? Because the truth is self-substantiating and lies are just void. So the guy just plowed him over because he's got nothing, And it's really unfortunate, I think, that one of the reasons that these hucksters are able to position themselves as, leading lights in the alternative narrative world is that it's precisely because they're full of shit. They embellish things and they act like it's a certainty, and people don't want to hear about possibilities. People are terrified of the unknown. This is the main driving factor behind religion, politics, all of these systems that people become trapped in, just like alternative narratives, right? It's extremely predatory what these rat bastards are doing. And so, no, I don't give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he, what's the point of synchronicities? Well, that depends, I think. Some of them are pointless, I think. Just as Jung said, I think that synchronicities are a manifestation of higher orders of symmetry that not really govern, but they're an integral part of the structure of the universe. And so, there are symmetries that connect form and function. It's not just physical symmetry, like the two sides of your face hopefully are pretty symmetrical, right? Form and function can have symmetries. History has symmetries, right? This idea of symmetry is an all-pervasive thing. That's Jung also said, synchronicity is an ever-present reality for those who have eyes to see, and that's because order and symmetry are inextricably intertwined. And so it seems to me that when you create more homeostasis in your internal being between the conscious and the subconscious mind, this is really what awakening is, right? The automatic part of the being is sort of being overhauled and tuned up and connected to the conscious part, so we're less robotic. When we create that, it is a reflection of the internal experience and external experience, and so these synchronicities occur because you have become aware of the symmetry. Yeah, the song Synchronicities, I think it's 2 or something. He's talking about the It's like he'll describe some bland day in like a normie life, and then he'll mention that something is bubbling up from the bottom of a dark Scottish loch. That's a reference to Aleister Crowley having summoned something from the depths of the loch. They say that the Loch Ness Monster was not ever seen until Crowley did his Abramelin workings there. And yeah, so that's and Sting studied his work 5 hours a day, he said, which actually surprised me kind of a lot. Yeah, so it's an unfortunate circumstance we find ourselves in, because it seems to me that the only famous people that are in this demographic of questioning the matrix history and the matrix mentality are grifters that are exploiting people. They're exploiting people's paranoia. They're exploiting people's intellectual laziness. And, it's really obvious to anyone outside of it. So it really is a tragic circumstance that we are immersed in. And it's like, well, what do we do about this? Obviously there's not much we can do, except not promote these people's work. Don't give Graham Hancock any of your money. Comment when you see people falling for these obvious farces. But for me, it's just more motivation to vet my sources and make sure that I never profane the air with untruths. Everything we do and think reverberates throughout the universe for eternity. So we have to take tremendous amount of responsibility to be mindful about what we promote, who we promote, and why. All right, so I'll give you guys a second to punch more questions or subjects into the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to sign out in a minute. I have a date with the toad, I think, tonight, so I have to prepare for that. Boleskine House, yep, that is correct. Going once, going twice. Okay, guys, thank you so much for spending this time with me. Fuck you, Graham Hancock, and also Billy Carson and Terence Horward. You're not helping anyone, it's actually kind of despicable what you guys do. Yeah, the archaeologists are making a lot of assumptions, but they at least will acknowledge when those things are assumptions. Graham Hancock really is... It's a bit of a different thing when you're intentionally fabricating stuff and lying about things in order to justify your bullshit. That's not good. So please, Mr. Hancock, shut the fuck up. You're not helping anyone. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me. Please hit the like button, share, subscribe, consider becoming a patron, because we get no support from YouTube. We are demonetized because I tell too much truth. And unlike Billy Carson and Terence Horward and Graham Hancock, yeah. So, oh yeah, and even Professor Dave. And it's not in his point. In his case, he's not lying about stuff, but he doesn't know. In the same video where I debunk Terence or Billy Carson, I debunk Professor Dave quite a bit too, because. At one point he says there's no electromagnetic field that can manipulate complex proteins and amino acids and whatnot in order to change biology. And I'm like, really, Dave? And I play Michael Levin showing, video proof that he doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. This guy's supposed to be all about science. This experiment's from 2013. It's major news. It's kind of the opposite thing with Dave. He's so stuck in a certain paradigm that the greater reality is occulted to him because he's not able, even if science is demonstrating it in an undeniable, demonstrable form, he still can't quite get with the program. yeah, we have a lot of these people that are just really doing us a great disservice. And, you know, in the case of Professor Dave, it's just a glaring example of why we don't need Graham Hancock and Billy Carson and all of these people contributing to this negative perception of people that, are panpsychists, for example. Harvard scientists are now on board with us. So, anyways, I will be back soon enough. Thank you guys so much for spending this time with me.